A mother's love is meant to protect asterisk, but what happens when that love is used against her, twisted, bent, and broken by the very child she raised? This is not a tale of war, it is a tale of revenge, obsession, and humiliation, one that began in the throne room of the House of Vero, where a young prince learned how to hate, and how to make even his mother kneel. The perfect heir turned silent asterisk Prince Calin was not born for war, he was born for worship. Asterisk golden-haired, eloquent, and clever beyond his years. He was raised under chandeliers and silver spoons. The nobles adored him. The servants feared him, but most of all, his mother, Queen Elira, loved him to the point of blindness. Asterisk after his father, King Halric, died in a sudden hunting accident, Elira ruled as regent. She was graceful, educated, and unshakably composed until she made her first mistake. She underestimated her son. Asterisk in the years that followed, Calin grew cold. He stopped smiling. He would often sit in the royal hall for hours, watching his mother speak, not like a son, but like a shadow measuring the strength of its master. Asterisk, you were always meant to rule. Elira would say asterisk, but not yet. Let me carry the burden a little longer. She meant it out of love. But what Calin heard was, asterisk, you are not ready. The enemy beneath the crown asterisk when Calin turned 20. The court expected him to rise, but Queen Elira refused to step down. Instead, she deepened alliances with Lord Darren Vesk, a powerful noble whose bloodline had once warred with the Ver family. He was older, graying beard, hard eyes, battle-worn hands, but Elira trusted him, even flirted with diplomacy between their houses. Asterisk Calin despised him. Asterisk he remembered the night his father died, and how Darren's men had been present in the woods. Asterisk if anyone orchestrated the king's fall, Calin whispered to his guard, it was him. But Queen Elira dismissed his concerns as paranoia. That's when something inside the prince cracked. A plan born in silence. Calin stopped speaking to his mother. He began writing letters instead, coded, sealed, sent in the dead of night. Asterisk he started appointing his own men inside the palace, cooks, scribes, guards who owed him favors or coin. But his vengeance wasn't aimed at Darren alone. No, he wanted his mother to feel what he felt. Powerlessness, humiliation, betrayal. Asterisk, she raised me with velvet, he once told his tutor. Asterisk let's see how she looks wrapped in iron. The poisoned proposal. Asterisk one autumn morning, in front of a full court, Calin announced a new treaty, forged with Lord Darren, ending decades of hostility. Everyone was shocked, but the treaty came with a twist. Asterisk as a symbol of unity, said Queen Elira, my beloved mother shall take Lord Darren as her husband. Their union shall bind our two houses. The silence was deafening. Even Lord Darren stared at the prince, unsure whether it was mockery or madness. But Calin's smile was unbreakable. Queen Elira's eyes searched her son's face, begging silently, but Calin only nodded once like a command. The collapse of the queen. Elira refused. At first, asterisk she fled the palace for her ancestral home, surrounded by her old retainers, but Calin blocked every supply line. He cut her off from royal funds. He publicly accused her of treason and hiding documents from her reign. And finally, he sent her a gift. Asterisk her old wedding ring, the one she had worn when she married his father, along with a note, you taught me duty. Now wear it. She returned 3 days later, her hair pinned perfectly, her face unreadable, and her hand wrapped around Lord Darren's arm. A wedding of chains. Asterisk, the royal wedding was not festive. No music, no cheering crowds. Asterisk, just a silent procession, and a queen who looked more like a hostage than a bride. Asterisk Calin watched from the high balcony, expression blank. The nobles murmured, the priests hesitated. Asterisk but the prince stood above them all, and no one dared defy him. Asterisk she wears white, he whispered, but she's already in mourning. Asterisk that night, as the palace celebrated in forced silence, Calin walked past his mother's new chambers. Asterisk from within, he heard her weeping. He did not stop, he only smiled. The game has just begun. This wasn't just revenge, it was psychological warfare. Asterisk Calin didn't just want to punish Elira, he wanted to reshape her into a relic of his power. She had ruled, she had dismissed him. Asterisk now, she was bound by a marriage she never wanted, to a man who might have killed her husband, all because of her son. Asterisk the boy she had bathed, taught, defended, had become the one she feared most. And yet, in the depths of her shame, one thought remained. Asterisk if he can do this to me, what will he do to the kingdom? They thought she was finished, a discarded queen, a woman buried beneath velvet and shame. Asterisk but what they forgot is this, the crown never forgets its weight, and neither does the woman who once wore it. The new queen of nothing. Asterisk the kingdom, officially named Queen Elira, Queen Emer, a fancy way to say, you are no longer needed. She had no court, no duties, no respect. Asterisk she was a consort now, married to the enemy of her house, Lord Darren, who had been rewarded with the queen's chambers, jewels, and body. Asterisk but the people whispered. Asterisk because every time she passed in the halls, her back straight and her face unreadable. They remembered. She may have lost her crown, but not her presence. The first crack in the Prince Calin had won. Or so he believed. He dined with ambassadors, rewrote laws, and posed for royal portraits beside a throne he hadn't earned, only stolen. But something began to gnaw at him. Loyalty in the palace grew thinner. His guards became quieter. Servants looked away. And worst of all, he began to feel like a shadow chasing itself. Every night, he'd walk past his mother's door, sometimes hearing her voice behind it, sometimes silence. But the weight of it was growing. The enemy husband, Lord Darren, now Queen Alira's husband, played the role of a loyal ally. But behind closed doors, his ambition was clear. He was no pawn. He had accepted the Queen's hand, not to serve Calin, but to reclaim power for his own house. And Queen Alira, she allowed it. She let him believe she was broken. Let him whisper strategy in her ear. Let him think she was his. But every time he left the room, she burned his letters. The letter with no name, it began with a parchment. Left on kept desk, unsealed, unsigned. One line. The crown doesn't sit well on liars. He burned it, but a week later, another one arrived. Then another. Each note sharper, more intimate, filled with words only someone close could know. He accused guards, punished scribes, but he couldn't find the source. Because the one holding the pen was not a servant, not a stranger. It was the woman sleeping next to his enemy. The garden confrontation, one foggy dawn. Calin found her alone in the royal garden, trimming a dying rose bush. You're wasting your time, he said. Dead roots can't bloom. Alira didn't look at him. Some things only appear dead until the right hands touch them. He stepped closer. You're not a queen anymore. She finally turned, and yet, you're still afraid of me. Their eyes met. For the first time since the wedding, they saw each other clearly, not as mother and son, but as rivals. The collapse of the palace began to shift. Allies withdrew. Foreign courts questioned Caelin's legitimacy. Even Lord Darren began suggesting Calin was too emotional for rule. Then came the worst blow. A sealed document, signed by dozens of nobles, requesting Alira be reinstated as co-regent to stabilize the realm. It was not a revolution, not yet, but it was a beginning. The dream and the fall. Calin stopped sleeping. He saw his father in dreams, staring at him from blood-soaked woods. He saw Alira sitting on the throne, her eyes cold, her hand holding a broken crown. One night, he burst into the royal chapel, screaming, "She's cursing me. She's turned them all against me." Priests fled. Guards whispered. And somewhere, deep in her chambers, Alira smiled in the dark. The crowns return under pressure. Calin agreed to share power with his mother again. She returned to court in black and silver, not as a grieving woman, but as a resurrected queen. Darren stood beside her, unsure whether he had married a ghost or a blade. At the next royal feast, Calin was seated one chair lower than her. It wasn't protocol, it was intentional. The kingdom saw it, so did he, and he knew. She had taken back the throne, not with soldiers, not with poison, but with silence, memory, and presence. The final moment, in the palace crypts. Calin once stood alone before his father's tomb. He whispered, "I became everything you wanted," and in that darkness, a voice not from the tomb, but from his mind, echoed, "No, you became what she made you to be." Because even twisted sons are made by mothers, and even fallen queens.